Hello everyone. As you know, each country in the world has its customs because of differences in culture. Marriage culture is an interesting topic. Marriage is very important to one's life. Not only to the couple involved but also to both families. The wedding process in Vietnam, an Asian country, and England, a Western country, is different from each other. This presentation of Group 5 consisting of 6 members, will bring to your attention common knowledge about marriage culture in the 2 countries above. First of all, I want to talk about the similarities between Vietnamese and English weddings. In both countries, the groom should not see his bride on the day before the ceremony, because that will bring bad luck to the newlyweds. And the bride should never wear her complete wedding clothes before the wedding day, except when the bride tries them on. Another similarity is that the groom carries his bride over the threshold. Second, I want to talk about the main differences between Vietnamese and English weddings. About culture patterns. Vietnam's culture is a part of Eastern culture and is a high-context culture. Contrary, England's culture is a part of Western culture and is a low-context culture. About time and place, in Vietnam, the date of weddings depends on the date of birth of the bride and groom. They must determine the most appropriate time for their date of birth. Some traditional Vietnamese wedding parties are celebrated at their homes, usually in the countryside, others are celebrated in a restaurant. In England, in the past, Wednesday was considered a nice day for a wedding. Nowadays, most weddings take place on a Saturday. The wedding is usually placed in the local parish church or registry office, which tells everyone that a marriage is going to take place between 2 people. About wedding costumes. In Vietnam, in the past, the bride and groom wore traditional Vietnamese costumes, áo đai. Nowadays, the bride and groom wear traditional Vietnamese costumes, áo đai in engagement ceremony. On the wedding day, the bride wears a white wedding dress and the groom wears a suit. In English weddings, a white wedding dress with a veil is a favorite choice for the bride. There's a rhyme that affects what the bride wears. Something old, something new, something borrowed. Something blue. The bride often wears a new dress. Something new, wears an heirloom, or maybe carries a family Bible or prayer book. Something old, something borrowed from their acquaintances. And something blue, often a blue garter under their dress. And the groom wears the groom's suit like a morning dress, tailcoat, tuxedo, or 3-piece suit with a tie. In Vietnam, before the wedding takes place, there are 2 main ceremonies. The first one is the proposal ceremony, đám go. It is the meeting of the 2 families, where the groom's family will visit the bride's family to ask permission for an official relationship between the children to get married. The second one is the engagement ceremony. The engagement is not only a ceremony but also an official announcement by the bride and groom about their becoming husband and wife to their 2 relatives. In England, marriage is usually initiated by a proposal of marriage, simply called a proposal, involving the presentation of a ring, an engagement ring, and the formalized asking of a question such as, "Will you marry me?" They may even go down on one knee before proposing. If the proposal is accepted, the couple becomes engaged. In England, the woman wears the engagement ring on the 3rd finger of her left hand. Once a wedding date has been set, the banns of marriage, commonly known simply as the banns, are announced. This is a notice, usually placed in the local parish church or registry office, which tells everyone that a marriage is going to take place between 2 people. Before the wedding takes place, brides have hen nights and bridegrooms have stag parties. Nowadays, stag and hen parties can take many forms, such as experience events, day trips, or a simple night out at a restaurant or cocktail bar, but the most important part is that the groom and bride-to-be are enjoying their last moments as an unmarried couple, independently, amongst their closest friends. About the ritual on the wedding day, in Vietnam, the wedding will take place as follows. Before the wedding ceremony, the representative of the groom's family will bring the betel nut to the bride's house first. After checking everything, the groom's family will go to the bride's house, and then they hold the wedding ceremony at the bride's house. When it's time to pick up the bride, the groom's representative will ask the bride's family's permission to bring her home. Lastly, they hold the wedding ceremony at the groom's house. The ritual of an English wedding is a little bit different from a Vietnamese wedding. The bride walks down the aisle, escorted by her father, and the couple cuts their wedding cake. After that, the bride and groom make their marriage vows and exchange rings. The bride, groom, officiant, and 2 witnesses go off to a side room to sign the wedding register. Next, the couple has their first dance, and guests file out to throw flower petals and confetti over the newlyweds for good luck. Finally, the bride turns her back on the guests and throws her bouquet over her head. After the wedding ceremony, in Vietnam, a few days after the wedding, there will be a meeting day, the day the groom's family takes the bride to visit her parents. In England, guests are invited to attend a meal and further celebrations. This is known as the wedding reception, where the married couple, the couple's parents, the best man, and the wedding entourage greet each of the guests. During the reception, several speeches and/or toasts are given in honor of the couple. It is traditional for the best man, bride's father, and the groom to give a speech at the wedding reception. Ceremony trays are a feature of Vietnamese weddings. According to the ancients, the number of trays must be odd, but the number of items in each tray must be even. English weddings also have some interesting customs and traditions, such as throwing grains of wheat or oats at newlyweds was thought to bring the couple fertility and wealth. About the gifts for the bride and the groom. In Vietnam, the family will give the bride and groom gold bars or gold jewelry such as necklaces, rings, and bracelets. Meanwhile, friends or guests at the wedding will give the bride and groom money in an envelope. In England, wedding gifts are much more diverse. Photo frames, wine, and handmade items can become gifts for wedding couples. There is a tradition of old, new, borrowed, and blue. The day before their wedding, couples keep this tradition alive by giving each other tokens from friends and family that represent something old, new, borrowed, and blue. Above are the contents of the marriage culture between England and Vietnam. We do hope that our presentation will provide you with some basic knowledge about English and Vietnamese marriage culture. Thanks for listening.